So this is the equation that shows that total spending has to equal total income. Now, if you'll recall, aggregate expenditure is 4 parts in macroeconomics. There's consumption, investment, government spending, and net exports. These are the 4 groups that can spend money on a country's production. Consumers make the largest part of U.S. spending decisions. It's about 70%. Investment is business spending on capital, like machinery, houses, new buildings. That is different from what sometimes people consider to be investment when we talk about buying stocks, for example. G is government spending, and X minus M is exports minus imports. Anytime a country produces and it's sold abroad, it is production in that country, and it creates jobs in the country, and then the products are sold to another. M is imports. There's a negative sign. What that means is that as people buy stuff from a foreign country, it means that it's being spent, but it's not being produced. So you've probably seen these 4 components of U.S. or any country's spending or GDP. Now, for our purposes, we're going to talk about, first of all, what equilibrium means. Equilibrium means that spending and production, or spending and income, have to be equal. That does not have to be the case, however, and that's what this model shows. It shows that only certain types of spending or certain amounts are the exact amount so that spending and income are equal. So what does this mean? First of all, if aggregate expenditure is less than income, you are spending less than what you earn. That means that you have extra money that you're earning. Your income is high, but your spending is low. What that means is that you are saving money. Now, saving money is good for an individual, but it is bad at the aggregate level. It is bad if everybody does it in total. So one example that I think of from real life that I talk about in my classes is when people look at ways to save money, you can find a lot of advice about how to save money, how to cut expenses in your own life. And so the example that comes up first, everywhere you look, is don't spend $4 on a coffee at Starbucks, which is good, right? You make it at home, go somewhere cheaper, get a coffee maker, you can save $4. But if everybody did it, if in total the entire economy stopped buying coffee at Starbucks, what that means is that nobody would go to Starbucks. Starbucks would close down. Starbucks baristas would lose their jobs. And so if everybody saved money, that would not be good for GDP. And yes, it is sort of backwards. Sometimes it's called the paradox of thrift. So what this means is good for an individual to save, bad for everybody to save. So we don't want this point. We don't want spending to be less than income. Now, if you go the other way, if you spend more than you earn, that's true for a lot of people. Where does the money come from? The technical term for this is called dissaving. Now, most people have more experience about why this is bad. If you spend more than you earn, you're going to wind up into trouble in the long run. All right, so these are both bad for the macroeconomy. What we care about is where aggregate expenditure equals Y. There's going to be 0 savings. You are not adding to savings. You are not taking out of savings or dissaving. You have this equilibrium point. So when we talk about equilibrium GDP, we're talking about the exact point where this is. Now, this could be at a high income or a low income. If you don't make a lot of money, you could still keep your balanced budget. You spend less. And yes, there are people who do make a lot of money. And you'll hear arguments. Some wealthy people in New York City, for example, were arguing that their expenses were so high that they couldn't afford to pay higher taxes. And so they talked about all the bills that they had to pay to maintain a very wealthy standard of living. So you could have a high income and you could still be in debt. You could have a low income and you could still put money in savings. This is going to be different for every single point. All it's saying is that a low income or high income, you simply have to have a high spending to match a high income or low spending to match a low income, as long as you are balancing sort of the budget where spending and income are equal. So how do we get this?